Question 528. If g is the antiderivative of this expression such that g of -1 is equal to, what is the value of g of 2? Since g is antiderivative of this expression right here, this expression must be g prime, right? G prime of x. And it is given that g of -1 is equal to. And the question is, what is g of 2, right? So we're going to write definite integral from -1 to 2. Integrand must be g prime x. Then we will have, using the fundamental theorem of calculus, g of x with 2 minus g of -1. Right? That's fundamental theorem of calculus. So, integral from -1 to 2, g prime of x is x squared plus 2x over x dx is equal to g of 2, this is what we're looking for, minus g of -1, that's 2. Right? So let's find the value of this definite integral. Okay, we have integral -1 to 2, x squared plus 2x over x, that's x squared over x, which is x plus 2x over x, right? That's going to be equal to 2. So that's going to be equal to x squared over 2 plus 2x. And we have a -1, 2 here. Substitute 2 first. So 4 over 2 plus 2 times 2, 4. Minus, substitute -1. That's going to be 1 over 2 minus 2. Right? So 6 minus, that's going to be -3 over 2, right? So plus 3 over 2. So 12 over 2 plus 3 over 2, that's going to be 15 over 2. So we have a 15 over 2 here is equal to g of 2 minus 2. So g of 2 is equal to 15 over 2 plus 2. That's 19 over 2, right? So this is our answer. Question 531. What are all values of m such that this definite integral is equal to 0? Okay, let's solve this definite integral and set that is equal to 0. So antiderivative of 2x cubed minus x is equal to 2 times x to the 4 over 4 minus x squared over 2. And lower limit is 1, upper limit is m, and set that is equal to 0, right? So here, 2 times 1, 2 times 2. So we can actually factor out 1/2, right? 1/2 x to the 4 minus x squared from 1 to m is equal to 0. So multiply by 2 each side, then this will be eliminated, right? Now substitute m and 1. M to the 4 minus m squared minus, if we substitute 1, that's going to be 1 minus 1, right? 1 minus 1, 0, right? So that's 0. So we have m to the power of 4 minus m squared. That is equal to 0, right? Now factor this. M squared minus 1 is equal to 0. So m squared times m minus 1, m plus 1 is equal to 0, right? So all of this expression is equal to 0 when m is equal to 0 or 1 or -1, right? So what are all values of m such that this definite integral is equal to 0? D, right? The answer must be D. Question 533. Suppose f of x is a continuous function such that f is greater than or equal to 0 for all x. Which of the following is not necessarily true? Okay, let's look at these answer choices. Answer choice A, we have a definite integral from 0 to 5. F of x dx is greater than or equal to 0, right? Well, in this problem, f is continuous such that f is greater than or equal to 0 for all x, right? So the graph of f must be above the x-axis, something like this, right? Let's say this is f of x. So here's a 0, here's a 5, and definite integral represents the area under the curve, right? So area under this curve right here will be positive, right? Greater than or equal to 0. So that's true, right? Now look at the answer choice B. We have integral from 0 to 5 f of x dx. Again, that's the area under this curve from 0 to 5. So this region, right, is equal to 0 to 2 f of x dx. That represents the area of this region, right? 0 to 2. 2 to 5, that's the area of this region, right? 2 to 5. So sum of these two is equal to the area of a whole region, right? So B is true. Okay? Answer choice C. If function f is even, well, even function is always symmetric about the y-axis, right? Then integral from -5 to 5 f of x dx is equal to 0. Well, let's draw one function that is even. It's always symmetric about the y-axis. Let's say if we draw function like this, that's even function, right? So let's say here is -5, here is 5, right? So -5 to 5, integral from -5 to 5 f of x dx, that is not always equal to 0, right? With this reason, not is equal to 0. Does that make sense? So the answer is a C. This is not necessarily true. But we can say that from -5 to 5 f of x dx can be written as, since the area of this part right here is equal to the area of this part right here, we can write the area of a whole region is equal to 2 times area of this part, or 2 times area of this part, right? So we can write from -5 to 0 f of x dx, or we can write this is equal to 2 times 0 to 5 f x dx, right? Answer choice D. Integral from 5 to 0 f of x dx is equal to negative integral from 0 to 5 f of x dx. Okay, that is true because this definite integral can be written as antiderivative of f 0 minus f of 5, and this definite integral can be written as antiderivative of f 5 minus f of 0, right? So if we have negative here, then these two expressions are equal to each other, right? This is f of 0 minus f of 5. This is f of 0 positive f of 0 minus f of 5, right? So if we switch these two, we can have a negative in front of this integral and they're equal to each other. So D is true. So the answer to this question must be C. Question 535. If f is continuous function such that integral from 4 to -2 f of x dx is equal to 6, integral -2 to 1 f of x dx is equal to 3, then what is the value of integral from 1 to 4 f of x dx? Okay, let me draw number line x here. Here we have a 4 to -1, -2 to 1, 1 to 4, right? So largest number is 4 and smallest number is -2, and we have 1 between those two numbers. So let's write smallest number -2, 4 largest number, and 1 between these two numbers, right? Here we're looking for integral from 1 to 4 f of x dx, right? It is given that 4 to -2 f of x dx, that is equal to 6, right? But we have smaller number here, larger number here, right? So we're going to switch these two. So integral from -2 to 4 f of x dx, then that's going to be equal to negative of this value, right? If we switch these two, that's going to be negative of this value. So -6. And we have -2 to 1 f of x dx is equal to 3, right? So we're looking for 1 to 4. 1 to 4. So this region, right? What that is equal to integral from 1 to 4 f of x dx is equal to integral from -2 to 4 from here to all the way here minus integral from -2 to 1, right? Does that make sense? So -2 to 4 f of x dx minus integral -2 to 1, right? So that is equal to from -2 to 4 f of x dx, that's -6. So -6 minus -2 to 1 f of x dx, that's 3, right? So -3. So that's going to be equal to -9. So the definite integral from 1 to 4 f of x dx, that is equal to -9. Question 537. If f and h are continuous functions such that integral from -1 to 5 f of x dx is equal to 4 and integral from -1 to 5 h of x dx is equal to -2, then what is the value of this integral expression? Okay, let's simplify this integral first. We have larger number here, smaller number here, right? So first thing we have to do is we have to switch these two. Then it's going to be equal to negative integral -1 to 5, right? And we have 3 f of x minus 2h of x dx, right? Now let's separate this integral into two different integrals. If we have a plus or minus here, we can always separate it, okay? So that is equal to negative integral -1 to 5, 3 f of x. Here, negative times negative, that's positive, right? So dx plus integral from -2 to 5 2h of x dx. Okay? Now, we're going to rewrite this expression with a 3, with a constant outside of the integral. Okay? So that's going to be equal to -3 times integral -1 to 5 f of x dx plus, here we have 2, right? So write 2 in front of integral h of x dx. Okay, so this expression, this integral is 4, right? So this is 4. This integral is negative 2, right? So this integral is negative 2. So that is equal to negative 3 times 4 plus 2 times negative 2. So that's negative 12 minus 4. So that's going to be equal to negative 16. So the answer is negative 16. Question 544. If the average value of the continuous function g on the interval from negative 3 to 1 is 12, what is the value of integral from negative 3 to 1, 6g of x dx? Okay, the average value of the function g on this interval can be written as 1 over b minus a, 1 minus negative 3, right? Integral from a to b, negative 3 to 1, g of x dx, right? And that is equal to 12. So equal to 12. So 1 minus negative 3, that's 4, right? So we have 1 over 4, integral from negative 3 to 1, g of x dx is equal to 12. So integral from negative 3 to 1, g of x dx is equal to 48, right? The question is, what is the value of this definite integral? So that is equal to 6 times, if we have constant multiplied, we can always write this constant in front of integral, right? So 6 times integral from negative 3 to 1, g of x dx, right? So that is equal to 6 times this integral right here is equal to 48. So 6 times 48, that gives us equal to 288. So the answer is equal to 288. Okay?